Alright, theory and theology, what is up? I'm excited about this topic. I'm like so excited. It's one of my favorite topics. I've really been enjoying talking about the internet. I want to talk about this Internet Asifa video. I'm gonna get to it in this episode, but before that, I want to wish everybody, let me see, how many holidays do we have going on here? Happy Eid al-Adha. I was lucky today to tune in to the Facebook group on Zoom where I was able to learn some about that. And I'm probably gonna, I was late, so I did record a lot and I was cooking in the middle of it. And, I'm probably gonna have to go back and listen to the whole episode again, up until a certain point at least, because a lot of it I was out of the room. I just kind of record them, but because it is kind of a private group, I don't really record. I don't post. Initially I wanted to post the content of the recordings, but now I just keep it for my own personal notes. But I still do want to talk about it when something comes up. And I have timestamps for the Internet Asifa video up until 1 hour 46 minutes, but I think it's like a 4 hour long video, and I'll have the full Internet Asifa video link for you. The one that I'm talking about anyways, and there are other links. And okay, so happy Eid al-Adha. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Eid al-Adha. And on Central Synagogue, I saw that there was another holiday during the week, the last week or so. A couple holidays came up, so I saw it in their lives. So let me go to their lives so I can see what they were saying. I think it was, let me see. So Shavuot Yizkor on June 2nd. Erev Shavuot would have been June 1st. It's I don't know if they did a Mishkan service this Saturday morning. I don't see it. But sometimes I like to tune into that one because they I mean, I have nothing against the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvahs. Usually they don't have those there, and a lot of times they do like a group, like the people observing can get, like, they can talk, they can speak, and they have like a Zoom group that tunes in too sometimes, and they can also speak. And so they kind of go through like verse by verse of some of the Torah portion during their Sabbath service, and then they let people have turns to like speak on certain verses, or like they kind of go around, like whoever has something to say. I'm kind of liking engaging with religious content when there's conversation, even if I don't believe what everybody says, or if it's not really my cup of tea. I would rather hear multiple perspectives than just like read a book. Um, you know, and just read it the way I've always been taught, or read it the way that I've always thought about. So some topics about internet that I kind of wanted to talk about before I even go into these specific topics. Into the main topic of the Internet Asifa, I wanted to talk about just some things that have come up in the last maybe few days or so. Now, I've recorded based off of one of the Adventist magazines. I think the last recording Did I even post it? I may not have even posted it yet, but I may have posted. I don't remember if I posted or not, but I recorded, anyways, an episode about this article in one of the Adventist magazines, kind of about how they were first starting to use the internet to, you know, kind of track like what it does for church membership, I guess. Not necessarily membership, but church. Like people getting baptized or accepting Jesus, or people tuning into services. I don't know if they talked about if membership ever increased due to any of the online stuff early in the 90s. But yeah, they definitely did have a lot of information about like the early internet, like I guess live stream. I don't know if that's what it was called back then, but basically giving people access to live streaming, religious events, or religious, at least the part where it's like the speaker talking, like the main speaker. So that was interesting, kind of interesting. Um, and I've been watching Wife Swap South Africa. So one thing that I've kind of noticed on there, I guess there may be two things. And I'm grouping all these things together because I don't have enough information to separate these out as like isolated topics. But one thing I've noticed is that the people, the a lot of I guess I didn't know this, but there's a lot of like yoga, crystal, sound bath, sound, like sound therapy, kind of like meditation, um, breath work, candle lighting, incense burning, kind of rituals, practices, grounding, like morning rituals that people are kind of creating in South Africa that are kind of based on a lot of Eastern traditions. Um, and I'm not sure if it's the same exact kind of how it is in the US. In the US, we definitely have that too. I guess I just didn't realize in South Africa it was like a big thing too. Um, and you're seeing like different cultures that in the morning, and this is on Amazon Prime, so there's like different cultures that have their different routines. Some of them have like prayer as a family once a day, or like they go to church on a Sunday once a week, or they have some kind of prayer before meals, or whatever it may be that they're incorporating. But I have noticed some of the I'm assuming they're Christians, but some of the people in those episodes, they're kind of refusing, like when one of the wives is like, let's swap, and we're gonna have their routine look the way that my routine looks, and the ones who have like the meditation, yoga, the Eastern kind of influenced practices, new age type stuff. Excuse me. A lot of the a lot of the a lot of the people are kind of like hesitant, or they're like, we'll observe, or we'll be here with you, but we don't really want to do it. Or some of them will do it, but it's pretty new to them. So it's very interesting to see. That was something that kind of surprised me. But I mean, I don't have like enough other than that to just say about that topic. The place where I saw it the most was when I was working in psychology. It was becoming more popular, to incorporate those types of practices and rituals a um like a mental health routine. a self-care routine, but it wasn't really taught as like a religion. And but I do remember early on having some clients feel like they weren't really interested in that. Um, and then from that point, I remember having some people um, tell me um, yeah, they were saying that they weren't interested in it. But then later on, I didn't really hear a lot of people saying that too much. Um, but yeah, a lot of times we were kind of teaching our clients different techniques, kind of surrounding mindfulness and a lot of that type of like Eastern, you know. I know, like I talk about Aaron Dowdy sometimes. Like he also has some kind of like new age ideas, those kind of ideas like, you're an infinite being, you came from, you chose to come to this earth to have like a human experience, and you chose kind of the path that you would go down to learn certain lessons. um and that belief, I don't really know what it's called exactly, but he kind of goes down that route too. um um okay, so there, but I don't really have a. That's not really the topic. Like basically, with the South African families, um, one thing that I did notice coming up was some of the families were trying to say like, "Hey, we don't want you to eat in front of the TV," or like, um, you know, have their cell phones on past like Wi-Fi available past a certain time at night, like 8 or 9 p.m. at night, or like no cell phones, no video games for more than like an hour a day on weekdays, or not until your homework is done, or like some kind of boundaries around it, because they're noticing in their society how the internet is kind of impacting. So that's another area that I kind of where it kind of came up talking about internet today. I don't think this is too private to share. Because in that Muslim group, you know, what's said kind of stays like with the group, but this wasn't really like a private topic. It was something I kind of had an interest in knowing about too. So I just won't share like the name or information in detail, but basically we were talking about this holiday. Um, some people talk about it as like sacrifice, like they talk about Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael. Um, I guess in Islam, there's this idea that Ishmael was the one that Abraham was going to sacrifice, and I um not Isaac. Or wait, um wait, is that the right son? uh, uh, Isaac, right? Yeah, I guess. Okay, well, so yeah, he was gonna get. I don't know. Either way, I didn't know that. I, you know, I didn't know that that was a was something that was considered. Um, was that Ishmael was the one that Abraham was gonna sacrifice. Um, and then that was something I learned today. And then um, I was curious because there's that guy on the internet who was following. I don't remember his name. A Muslim kid from the UK. And now his brother does it too. His brother's name is Esau. Um, no, I guess his name is, I don't know, whatever. Um, um, but basically he records and um I saw when he went to Mecca, and he went to do the pilgrimage, Hajj. Um, when I saw him, I was kind of like interested to know, kind of like, okay, like you see people kind of like live streaming or recording like social media footage while they're like doing the rounds around the Kaaba or doing the running between the two mountains or um, whatever it is that they're doing. Um, you see people documenting the whole experience. And someone in the group today was saying that, when they first went in the early 2000s, um, that wasn't really like a thing. Like there were people that were, making sure that people weren't using cameras even. Um, and I remember this wasn't even a long time. I don't know, maybe it was early 2000s. I remember going to the Saves the Day concert at the House of Blues. I think it was in Anaheim, and there was a rule there that said no cameras. And I don't know if that rule is still there, but it's just pretty surprising. I know when you go to comedy shows, you're supposed to lock up your phone. Um, I've seen a lot of shows that when people go on, they either turn their phone off or they get their phone locked up um, as part of the rules because they don't want live show footage getting leaked basically because well, they don't want the footage getting leaked because if the footage gets leaked, basically who's gonna want to go to a show if you can just watch it for free online, right? um and there is some kind of like debate about like church online. Like, yes, it allows more people to go, but you know um and to observe the service and like see it and be able to like see the archives and watch it other times during the week or rewatch or rewind or pause or whatever. um but then I would say it probably makes it so people go to church less because they can just watch it online. um which I don't know. I'm just seeing how things change because it's like when I think about quite a few years ago, that wasn't really the attitude. Like I do like that I can like tune in. I think when I used to go to the Rock in San Diego sometimes, I noticed something that they did different. Um, I noticed that one thing they did was they um one thing they did was um they um like if you would go to the service live, you would see the whole service, like music all the way through the sermon. Um, but if you didn't go live, you could only watch the live stream. Um, either when it, I think you could only watch it when it was happening, and they didn't. I think on the archives they didn't have the music part of the service. They only started with the sermon. There was some incentive to either watch it live at the specified times or um, you couldn't get the footage until after all the services were done. So basically, you weren't able just to watch any old time you wanted. Like you could, but like say, because they had Sunday services. So say, for example, if I was like, I'm gonna skip going to the Rock today, but I want to listen to the service online, and they have, I think, a 10 o'clock, a 12 o'clock, let's call it like a 6 o'clock. I don't remember if they had one between. I really don't remember now. There was another church, I think it was called C3 or something like that, where they had let's say for example like a 10 o'clock, a 12 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, a 5 o'clock, something like that. I didn't like that church the first time I went. Oh yeah, and happy Pride Month, by the way, too. But yeah, I didn't like that church, the C3 one. The first time I went, somebody was going on a rant about like trans people and not wanting people to have access to bathrooms. And this was like years ago. This was like, I think I was still living in San Diego at this time, and it was like so many years ago. It was probably like, it was pre-pandemic. So it was probably like 2018 or so, somewhere around there. Um, when they, wow, it's so crazy to think that was like 7 years ago, maybe 7 years or more ago. That's crazy to think, cause yeah, when people start talking about the pandemic and it started, I guess like you can argue when it started and all that, but like 2020 is like the date that we kind of look at for when like the impacts were like where we were actually being told what to do and what not to do. Um, at least in the U.S. Um, 5 years ago, guys, I was like near this time. It was like just before summer. 5 years ago, we were at like the 5 year anniversary of the pandemic. It's like, can you even believe that? Like, can you even believe? I can't even believe it. Like, I'm just like, man, where did the time go? But that's pretty much my marker for like remembering what happened when is you know that. But yeah, like if I wanted to watch the rock service at like 10 o'clock, it might not be showing yet. Um, if I wanted to watch the rock service at well, if I wanted to watch it at while it was live streaming at 10 o'clock, I could watch it. But say if it ended, and I wanted to watch it, say I wanted to watch it at 3 p.m., they wouldn't have the archive up yet, so I'd have to wait till 6 p.m. To watch it live. And then after 6 p.m., you could get, I can't remember, I think before the pandemic, you could get just the sermon alone. But I think after the pandemic, they started making it so you could get the song, the whole service with like the song service and like everything at the beginning. But I remember before the pandemic, before everything went like remote and everything was online, you couldn't really get the song service unless you tuned in live or unless you showed up live. So there was some incentive because their music was really good. They had like professional musicians. It was like a concert. It was like Hillsong style almost. And then yeah, that was something. So yeah, the guy who was saying about the Hajj pilgrimage, people using phones and stuff more than the South African family is talking about, when they see other people's households and they kind of realize the households that might have, uh, you know, routines that use phones, internet, video games, television too much. Like they kind of notice these people's kids watch a lot of TV. They're not getting outside, or like other things too, like their family's not eating together, or like they eat in their rooms, or they never talk, or like this person, never cleans or whatever. Like they try to like see like, if they can implement some of their family's routines. And then it's not like the American one, how everybody's like fighting and screaming and crying and yelling and cussing at each other. Like it's very calm. So I actually like the South Africa version way more. The American wife swap, the very first seasons, oh my goodness, if you ever go back and watch those, you can even find them free on YouTube. They were like, it was drama. um but yeah, you have those people that I mentioned who are all saying those things, and like all the stories I've mentioned about how I was able, when I was younger, how we didn't really have a tradition in Adventism of like not being on your phone because it wasn't really like a thing. And then the article that was in the Adventist magazine, and I've just been keeping an eye open for like stuff that talks about like the internet because I've been noticing the effects on my attention, my focus, social life. I don't really know exactly how it relates to people who feel like or are self-diagnosing as having like autism and you know um, ADHD. But screen time is a big factor, and I've been trying to pay attention to my screen time. I don't mind. Maybe can I look at my screen time while I'm talking on here? Let's see. Um, let's see. Week or day. So I've been pretty okay with my screen time lately, just because I haven't really used it too much. So let me see. I think this is today. I have about an hour 45 minutes of voice memos, which is podcasting. I have about 33 minutes of Prime Video because I was watching some of that one. I skipped the pilot of that South African wife swap. Uh, so I went back and started watching some while I was eating dinner. I've been on Safari for 19 minutes, and I'm pretty sure part of that was for part of the podcast I was recording. 17 minutes messages, which has been texting. 16 minutes YouTube, which I don't know what I was watching on YouTube, but probably something. 13 minutes Instagram. I don't know how many minutes I spent. Let me see. 10 minutes on notes. 6 minutes in settings. 6 minutes on Google. 2 minutes in my bank. 2 minutes on Islamic-relief.org. 2 minutes in my camera. 3 minutes on a calculator. 5 minutes on Gmail. 2 minutes on Shopify. 2 minutes on that EPMS Ellis Online. I was checking for new shops. Etsy, I was on there for 1 minute. Chime, PayPal, I was on there for 1 minute each. Weather, 38 seconds. Now we're going down to seconds. So these are just things I've checked for like a few seconds. Some websites in the clock, like 4 or 5 websites in the clock. Now the reason why this is not an accurate representation of how I spend my time. Maybe for a Saturday, for kind of this newer type of way of doing things, this is kind of more of an example. This is more accurate of an example. Other things I've done that aren't on here, I've been on my laptop for podcast reasons, both times, for probably a couple hours. I was watching the Facebook group, that Muslim Facebook group. I tuned into the Zoom. I was on there for, let me see, from about 10 a.m. or so, because I was late by like almost 30 something minutes. So a few minutes after 10 a.m. until almost 12:30 or so. I don't know exactly, but let's call it like 2.5 hours. So yeah, I haven't really been on too much today. If I had to change any of it, I would probably say I could have definitely done without watching Amazon Prime while I was eating dinner. Could have, well, it's just because of the podcast episode I was recording, but I could have stayed off of Instagram or out of my bank and off of Shopify. Shopify was again for that podcast recording. I was reviewing a store that had like Shopify, Etsy, and then the Chime, PayPal, Capital One. I was in those accounts. And I probably could have avoided checking the gigs too. But that's if I was being like super strict. But this is not an accurate representation of how long I would usually be online. It's just today. And that's usually the least today is like one of the least days that I'm online. Usually Saturdays are probably going to be the lowest of every day. Hopefully, that's kind of the goal. But I have been online. But you can see I haven't been doing a lot of much of anything. Um, Not like usual. Let's see. Am I able to go back one day? Because if I compare today to yesterday, yesterday was nowhere near. Um, and it's almost even embarrassing to like share what it is, but because it's not a good use of time. But let's see. Um, is this the right day? Oh, it's average. I clicked average. So just yesterday alone, entertainment was 4 hours 47 minutes. No, oh, that's the wrong. I'm reading the wrong thing. Uh, so yeah, yesterday I watched, and I was off, but I watched about 7 hours worth of YouTube. Now I was up till 1:30 in the morning, so that does show a little bit different than what would be normal for me. 7 hours. Two of those. How long is that movie? Long Island Expressway, LIE. However long that movie is, I watched that movie. It says I was on Safari for 5 hours. Um, okay, I see why it says that. I remember I was chatting on there for like probably like half the day yesterday, from probably like around 11 to almost like 6. 38 minutes on my messages. So I was texting that long. That was a really long time. Today I've only texted back like one or two people. Um, I was Amazon shopping for 37 minutes. Had to get some extra groceries and medicine and things. 4 minutes of notes, checking email, some other apps. I was on the phone for 2 minutes. Checked my bank. There's a job website, couple job website. I was on Instagram for 1 minute. Then a bunch of things for a few seconds. This looks like quick checks. Google.com, that EPMS site again, weather, settings, Wikipedia, LinkedIn. These are all just like a few seconds I was on there. But you can see the majority is YouTube and Safari. So I was chatting on a website that goes through Safari. I log in through Safari, and then I was watching videos, and even thinking about it now, I'm like, what did I even watch? I don't know what I watched yesterday. I couldn't, other than that movie that I watched at night, I don't even remember what I watched off the top of my head. I remember watching maybe one or two Caleb Hammer videos. I don't even know if I finished. No, I think I did finish one, and I might have fallen asleep. I might have taken a nap. I don't remember. Maybe that was the day before. But as you can see, this is like multiple hours in comparison to today. Um, um, yeah. So I'm happy with the way today looks. But it just gives me some insight into kind of where my time is going for sure. When I'm online, it's like I don't even remember some of it. So let's look at this Internet Asifa. And sorry, we've taken 34 minutes to get here. uh, so 34 minutes. I'm gonna write it in this. Uh, Pod is gonna be 34 minutes. That's when I'm gonna start talking about this. Is 34 minutes. So if you look at the video of the link I'll put in the description here. Um, at the video, and I'll put the timestamps in the in this episode's description. So the timestamps are going to be for the video. Um, so 34-minute mark began Internet Asifa topic. Then there's going to be the link, the full link. Link full, and then I'm gonna say below see the timestamps for the YouTube video topics. Okay, so at 17 minutes and 28 seconds, there's the English part of the intro, where they're saying, you know, please don't be uncomfortable with the language barrier, because a lot of it's in Yiddish, but they don't want that to discourage people from listening. Now, this Internet Asifa was at a stadium, city, I can't remember what, but it was like city something, CITI, like kind of like Citibank or something like that. But it was some city something. And this is like years ago, like 12 years ago or something. The first time I heard about this topic was from Heshi Fried from satire.net, or Heshi Fried on YouTube. He was probably the first person I watched a lot of Jewish content from. He has like a comedic kind of like stand-up raw style of just like making content, kind of like jokes about from Jews, about because he is one or was one at that point, about Hasidic Jews or Chabad, and like just like Orthodox, modern Orthodox, Orthodox, and you know, kind of differentiating between the different from groups, from FRUM. So at 17 minutes 28 seconds, they say in the English intro not to be uncomfortable about the language barrier. The primary importance is that they all came together. So it was a bunch of men. It was like a whole stadium pretty full of men. And from a distance, you can see most of them are wearing like the dark suits and the white shirt. Um, but it was a lot of age ranges, but I don't think I saw any women. And if there were women, they weren't in a section that I could see clearly, unless they were all wearing black, but I don't think they were. And I don't know where they would have been seated, if there was like a balcony where there were women, or I don't even know if it even shows women. It does show some young kids, like boy age, but I'm thinking they're there with their male relatives or male guardians, caregivers. I didn't really see any women there, so I don't know. Next we have the notes I put for 25-minute mark, 25 minutes 49 seconds. It's the second speaker. He said after, so basically after the part where there's a bad satellite connection, because it like there's a bad satellite connection for a long time. So I tried to write notes, and I am not very good at like the transliteration. So some of the things I took from that speaker, he was talking about something. It seems like it was called nase, koidim, Lnishma, in total trust to kodosh, barchu. Um, um, and then it says, for some, realities require use of internet. Asking leaders about protection, So like asking people in leadership about like he was like advising people to ask people in leadership roles about ways that if you have to use the internet, like how would you be protected? Like make sure that you're protected. I don't know if that's the part where they start talking, or if that was even incorporated. The kosher phone, that idea, that term, I don't think was going on back then. Maybe I could be wrong because I only heard about it more recently. But I also fell off from studying any of this kind of stuff for a very long time, so there was a lot that probably was going on in a lot of the majority of time when I was living in San Diego, when I wasn't really paying attention to this type of topic too much, or any kind of religious topics for that matter. For a long period of time being there. Um, he also talked about spiritual suffering, pain, health. We must introspect. At about 33 minutes, 15 seconds is the third speaker. I didn't put any note for that. At about 37 minutes, 8 seconds, it says the purpose of Asifa is that guidance needs to be in place. So they're basically finding that, back then, and this still applies now. Like this is like a decade or so old of a video, and it still applies now for sure. More now probably than it did then. That guidance needs to be in place. They need to have guidance, so that people aren't just like. I guess they're fearful that people are just gonna use. They don't have enough control or guidance or education about how to be protected against potentially not so good stuff online. And so I think I skipped a lot of it, or maybe I was listening. I don't know. But basically, I go all the way to an hour, 23 minutes, and 45 seconds. It says, when enemy threw arrows at Moses, it became straw. And when he threw earth, it became arrows. And 20,000 Jews gathered equals, oh, so basically 20,000 Jews gathered together equals the strength of Moses. And they were basically saying like, well, there's however many people gathered there in that stadium, so there's like a lot of strength within their community, especially in such a big gathering like that one. Now I listened to this like a week ago, so some of what I'm saying might not be exactly on point, but let me see. I would encourage you to listen to this. I'm just giving the timestamps because I'm like, I don't remember what happened between 37 minutes and an hour 23 minutes. There was a lot that I skipped. If it was in Yiddish, I skipped it. I think they had like a lengthy, some kind of service. I don't know if they were like doing one of the prayer times or what it was, but there was something going on where I could tell it was not English. It was not, it was something that was being like recited religiously, and I'm assuming it was like a prayer time that they were hitting on during the middle of that meeting, and so they were doing that prayer. I don't know for sure, but whatever it was really long. I don't remember if that's the time period where it happened or if it was like at the beginning. But there was a long prayer. And I don't know if was it this one where they did singing too. I can't remember because I kind of watched like a few video clips and then I settled on this one because I was like, this was really long and it's like the whole entire thing, and so I really wanted that, but I haven't finished it yet. 1 hour 33 minutes 50 seconds. They talk about being trapped by a web. That I thought was really interesting. And just to back up for a minute or so to talk about something else I heard about, that a lot of media related topics, which is something interesting about media related topics, is they don't hide what it is that they're doing. So people who are like on this side that are very careful about like what is Hollywood doing? Are there subliminal messages in these things? Like what's going on in advertising? You know, there are different kind of areas where it's like, okay, maybe they're trying to get like underneath, or like they show like we've all seen it how there's like Disney movies with like sex written in the clouds or something like that, like in a very uh light uh shade in comparison to like the other clouds or the sky. If it's like a blue sky, white clouds, but then there might be some like darker blue part of the sky that says sex written, or like you play the song backwards and it says like the devil fooled you or something. It's like weird creepy things that are just kind of like embedded, that are like hidden. And then like there's psychology and there's propaganda and there's different things about like how to appeal to the senses, and like we've all heard that like from the 90s, like all the stuff about like where they place the cereal boxes and how come they use certain colors, and like they're trying to appeal to children. And I found two things I found that are like game changers for spending, to reduce spending. If you want to reduce your spending, don't listen to advertising. If I don't hear on the radio what concerts exist, I don't want to buy tickets because I don't even know that it's there. If I hear, I'm not going to have FOMO at all because I don't even know it exists. I'm not even going to think to even try to start to invite people because I don't even know that it exists. So if I hear something, I'm not even going to know that it exists. Um, if I, so yeah, if I hear something, I'm not going to know that it exists. If I, you know, uh, and if you want to like not get hungry and start eating junk food, outside of meals, don't watch any food content. Don't watch content where they're cooking or preparing meals or making snacks or doing anything like that. Because I've noticed almost every time when I'm watching like Gordon Ramsay or something, I'm like, oh, I want to like make something to eat, even if I've just eaten. Or if I'm watching these like cool Japanese pastry, making like these relaxing videos that you see how they make these cool like pastries or jellos or little snacks, and then you suddenly want some little sweet thing to eat, you know, or like you hear about a sale on something on television, or you hear about something, you see something on a website, and then all of a sudden you want it. Guys, if you don't see the advertisement, you're probably not going to go out of your way to look it up. If you don't hear the advertisement, you're probably not going to go out of your way to look it up. I've specifically noticed that, and I've caught myself being like, oh, I want season tickets to this or that, or like I want, like the other day I was listening to Handsome podcast, and I think it was Mae Martin who mentioned that they wanted to buy tickets, or they already bought tickets to Jesus Christ Superstar, playing at I think it was the Hollywood Bowl. And then I think Fortune Feimster was asking, like, did you get a box? And I'm like looking up these box seats, these garden seats, these box seats are like $3,000 or something like that. And I'm like, I had no idea that they had tickets like that. And they're like, yeah, get a box and we'll all go, kind of thing. And I'm like, a $3,000 box. Um, and then you can get tickets all the way up in the nosebleeds that are like super affordable. And I don't know how much parking is. There was like a separate link for parking, but I was like, I didn't even know that was playing. But all of a sudden, I was like, now I want to go see Jesus Christ Superstar live at the Hollywood Bowl. I don't need to. Like that wasn't even in my plan. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know it was playing. But now that I know, it's like now I want, and now I want that. So just knowing stuff like that, like sometimes once you just know something. So this part in an hour and 33 minutes and 50 seconds where it says being trapped by a web, like even with television, they use terminology like channel, you know, even the word like media comes from medium. But like when you think about a medium, like a spiritual medium, or like a channel, you're like channeling something, right? You're like, um, you know, like there's different terminology. Um, some people say things like, um, television is like tells lies, tells lies to your vision or something like that. Um, I mean that's not really how that those the roots of those words would be broken down, but people do play with the words like that. Um, but yeah, I've learned a lot of people from people who are kind of like anti with some of the like media stuff and anti with some of the even like sounds. Like I learned from someone who was really into like when I was talking about when I started getting into like listening to like sound bath recordings and like different frequencies of recordings, like for relaxation, like say if they say it's a frequency that's supposed to support relaxation or like lower your stress, and it's like whatever hurts. I don't know what it would be, but is that whatever hurts? And then if I go to tune into that at whatever hurts that it's at, um if I go to tune into it at whatever hurts that it's sitting at, whatever level that it's sitting at, then um, you know, even though it says it's for like relaxation and stress, like I can't prove that. I don't know. I don't know what's the difference between this amount of hertz or that amount of hertz or that amount of hertz or this other one. I don't know which ones are good for me, which ones are bad for me. I'm just looking, okay, this YouTube video says it's for stress release. And then somebody told me, this person who I was close with was telling me, be careful because you never know. Like somebody might say it's for something good, but they might actually put it for, stress, like not to reduce stress, but this is the amount of hertz that's going to increase your stress. But I wouldn't know the difference, right? Like, and so this person was saying, like, be careful because there might be people who have evil intentions that are putting a certain amount of sounds um, into something, or a certain wave frequency, and they're labeling it as one thing, and it's wrong. And maybe they intentionally make it wrong, or maybe it changes somewhere down the line to where it's something different. So maybe you've already fallen asleep, but now you're just like asleep, and this sound is playing that's like negatively affecting you, even though you don't know. It's just playing throughout your room at night because you fell asleep with it on. Um, and I think that kind of stuff would be important to know because I've even thought about that with sound machines. Because your sound machine, if it has white noise, brown noise, whatever, pink noise, whatever it is, it doesn't tell you like what it is really. Um, and you know, because it doesn't really tell you, you wouldn't really know what it's doing. It's just doing things. It's just playing, and you might think, okay, I'm listening to this because it blocks out the noise, but maybe it's at a hertz that's not good for your sleep, or it's not good for your stress, or it might create more anxiety or affect your mood in some way. And those things are important to know, but it's like I don't think it would be easy to just go through all that and try to figure it out yourself. You'd probably have to have a way to like measure and then have like a chart to like compare the sounds you're listening to like you probably have to have a device that measures, and then like an oscilloscope or something. I don't know what you would use, but there might be an app. Maybe the app is wrong. Who knows? But someone was telling me that, and they were telling me about like be careful too. Like the sound baths, they have, those singing bowls have a frequency to them. The what do you call it? MRIs, like you don't know what it's gonna do. Like, and they were saying be very careful with that kind of stuff because those different frequencies, like they might be used for one reason, and then it might be causing some other issue. It's something worth kind of studying. So when I see this where it says being trapped by a web, because it is called the World Wide Web, right? They just put the word in there right away. Like it's not like they're even like pretending. Like a web usually isn't seen as something like freeing. A web, it traps you. Like you get tangled up in it, and it's usually because someone is preying on you, right? I mean, you become the prey if you get tangled in a web. The purpose of a web is to kind of trip you up or to capture you and to prey on you. So even if you just look at just the words just right in front of our face, right on the surface, before you even start using the internet, you're probably never going to be able to start using it without ever hearing the term World Wide Web or www. I don't even think we use that anymore. I've seen a lot of it going to HTTPS. Lately I've seen websites kind of dropping the www. I haven't been able to fully get time to study that. And I know me saying that is not accurate. I do fully have time to study it. I just haven't done it. I've spent time like 7 hours chatting online, or however many hours watching YouTube. 5 hours watching YouTube or something. I had plenty of time where I could have searched any of these days. And that's what a day looks like when I'm off. Um, but if I'm not off, I don't know. If I'm not off, the days might look a little different. But yeah, just talking about a web. You can get trapped in a web, and if you just break that down more, um, once you're trapped in a web, you're basically stuck trying to figure out how to get out before it's too late, right? And I feel like that's kind of the point that we're at now. A lot of us are getting to the point where we're like, I am trapped in this web. Not only is it just a web, it's a worldwide web. It's trapping everybody. The goal was to trap everybody. Everybody's supposed to get trapped up in this and get preyed upon. But it's just interesting seeing how religious groups are kind of using it. It's very interesting. And now at an hour, I only have a few more, three more. So at an hour and 35 minutes, 14 seconds, it talks about perseverance, endurance, coping. It says, okay, so this is my favorite part where they were talking about their young men who use who because Jewish culture is a very studious culture, and they know that like their young men throughout history have been able to learn, to study, to practice, to like memorize, and they were starting to see difficulty in their young men's focus. And this was way back like 12 years ago or something. So basically, I put notes: perseverance, endurance, coping. Internet usage leaves no room for these. It threatens the survival as a people and qualities a Bochum needs to become a talmid chochum. Ability to wait is a Jewish secret. That's what they said. That was a quote. That the ability to wait is the Jewish secret, and the internet creates this inability to wait. It creates this instant access to like pleasure, information. You're no longer using the patience of your brain or like trying to dissect ideas. Today, one of the first times in a while, I was intentionally searching on the internet. So I was searching for this holiday. I was searching for al Ad Eid Eid al Adha. I didn't know what it was, right? So you type that into Safari. The first thing that pops up are the dates. Uh, um, and then it pops up with a bunch of like pull down menus. And then the first article is on USA Today. And I was like, that's kind of like a news site, right? And I'm kind of like anti-news right now. So I skipped USA Today. I also went ahead and I skipped Wikipedia. I skipped all the Facebook of what people are saying with all the Facebook stuff and Instagram stuff. I skipped all of that. I skipped the top stories from Al Jazeera and Times of India. Mind you, this is all the first stuff that pops up right when I go into Safari and type it in. And this isn't even Google, this is Safari on my phone. There's pull down menus of more news for Morocco's Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha 2025, Muslims celebrate Feast of Sacrifice. And then it says people also search for. It has a whole bunch of things people also search for. I skipped that. I skipped mentioned in the news that shows shows photos of people like Salman Khan, Muhammad somebody, Mulay Hassan. It has all these different people's pictures. I skipped bbc.co.uk. I skipped all these other videos that are basically CNN News, First Post, and ANI News off of YouTube. And then finally, I see Islamic-relief.org. That's the first one I scrolled down far because I was trying to find something that was like, let me find a source. So now I'm kind of at the point when I'm searching online. I don't even want the very first thing. Let me not click USA Today. I don't want to support that at all. I'm trying to choose what do I want to support or what do I want to click on. I'd rather click on this Islamic Relief website. Now, I don't know anything about them, but I basically clicked on it so I could figure out what Eid is. Eid al-Adha. Basically, it is we remember the sacrifice made by Prophet Ibrahim in remembrance of his sacrifice. And to help the poor and needy, we give our own sacrifice. Then it has a whole lot of other information and the observances and things like that. But yeah, I actively had to go and make a choice in my mind. And I'm slowly realizing, the more I back off of this kind of stuff, and mind you, I'm saying the more I back off on it, as today, where I've barely spent hardly any time online, versus yesterday when I was online literally all day long. And so I'm saying this from this perspective now. This is probably the first time I could ever remember searching for something. Well, not ever remember, but lately. Not going first to use AI like ChatGPT to search something. Not first going to Wikipedia and not just clicking the first link that shows up at the top. I was actively like, no, I don't want anything news related. And all that stuff in the beginning, almost all of it was news, different news resources. And if that's not problematic, I don't know what is. Because most people are probably just clicking news resources because that's going to be the easiest thing. And I'm not I'm not trying to nitpick, but you know, these people, these Jewish studious people, were already saying that they feel like the internet threatens their survival as a people. And this is back then. They're basically saying that their students, um, you know, aren't developing the perseverance, endurance, and coping because there's too much internet usage. They talk about something called shomer enov. I was not able to find out the spelling for this or the actual. Um, I don't know what it is, but I wanted to figure out what it was. Um, the only shomer thing I know is shomer nagia, which is like protecting the. I think it means like the touch or something that has to do with like basically people of opposite genders not touching, not shaking hands, not hugging. Um, there's like modesty between people who are opposite sex, and they're not getting themselves into situations where they're gonna have more temptation to kind of like do a lot of physical sexual stuff for the most part, or even like welcoming anything like that. Even if they are married to someone else, they still don't do that with people of the opposite sex of other family members. I guess unless you're like an immediate family member, but no like shaking hands, hugging, that kind of stuff. They probably don't even hang out in just like mixed groups of opposite sexes. They just hang out with the same gender that they're in, that they are of, that they were born. So let's move more to 1 hour, 43 minutes, 16 seconds. They say that the instant is dangerous. Because everything is so instant, there's something about it being instant that makes it dangerous. And they said, at 1 hour, 46 minutes, 28 seconds, this person who was speaking was saying that they were surprised that at age 11, people were having Blackberries and iPhones. I've known of people even younger than that now, probably like age 9 years old, having some kind of device. Even if it's not exactly an iPhone, they might have some kind of smartphone or smart device or tablet. And I've seen people using them in churches, like in services. Just they sit their kids there and they're like, "Here, just have this thing and be quiet." It just keeps them quiet. There's kedusha and tahara, sanctity and purity. That is something else that's kind of threatened. I would say this is just me talking off the top of my head, and I don't know if I'm gonna go more into talking about this later, because I have kind of more trouble talking about like a lot of deeper topics on here. But I would say, from my own perspective, if you wanted to really protect yourself from either being tempted to look at certain stuff or be online longer than you need to be, you really have to put things into practice. So I can give you an example. I'm not going to give you like the full information, but let's just say, for example, I have built into some of my social interactions like some form of accountability. So accountability as in I can tell this person, what are some of the pictures I've taken, what are some of the things I've been searching online, or the last maybe screenshot I took, or the last uh, website or something like that that I looked at, or even talking about screen time and stuff like that. If you're kind of accountable and talking to someone about it, you're possibly going to be less likely to go through certain things, or if someone goes through your phone. I mean, I wouldn't want someone going through my phone, but if if you allow that, there was some video I saw last week, I think, where a lady was like showing an example that she was going to like some religious community um support site, where she was having them go into her phone and put in a certain block. I think this person, there's like a person in the community that has the code for all the phones, and they put like some kind of an adult lock or something, so it's like they can only go on certain websites to do certain things, and the only way to get that unlocked to be able to have full access is this person has to go back to this store or whatever it is and get that login code so that they can have access on their own personal phone to be able to get into like whatever sites. So it would be like, say for example, they wouldn't be able to go on like OnlyFans or Facebook or Instagram or um, YouTube or something like that. Uh, and then somebody just locks them out of it. And there is an option to get the code, but just because you would have to make that effort to go back to this person and be like, hey, my name is so and so, this is my phone, can I please get the code so I can get full access? First of all, you'd have to go out of your way to go all the way over there. Even if it's across the street, you'd still have to like get dressed and go over there just to get the code. There also might be a little bit of like cultural shame in it, because within that culture they're trying to practice like being distant from having full access. So just kind of like going in and being like, I want full access, even if you're not going to use the full access, somebody knows, like, you're just telling someone, I'm going from having like a strict disciplined access and limited access to now I'm like expressing to someone that I want full access. Just that act of having to like ask them for it or go get it, or like, and then also if like it's a community where people are kind of discouraged, just having that in place is going to discourage you a little bit more. Or even if you do get it open once, maybe you would like sit in the store, do whatever you need to do real quick on your phone, because maybe it's important and it's not like some other kind of like thing that you're maybe not really supposed to be doing. Um, and to each their own. Like, I feel like it's my personal opinion, as long as you set limits on certain things and you're not letting it get out of control, I mean, that's kind of the least you can do sometimes, at least for your health. Which is why it's like I've set aside for myself so far, as far as I've gotten with it. I try to look at my history. I try to like at least acknowledge, yesterday, what did I do? Today, what did I do? Um, can I even remember what I was doing online? Um, was it a good use of my time? Um, or energy online, or was I literally just wasting time? Because I feel like there's nothing wrong with relaxing. If you want to just watch a movie and relax, like what's so bad about that? But if you watch like 5 movies And it's like, okay, maybe it's once a week you watch 5 movies on like a weekend, and you're just staying in, whatever. That's not gonna really hurt your your brain, your week. It's not really gonna do anything too bad if it's like every so often you do that. But if you're watching like 3 movies a day, you know, or spending like 4 or 5 hours a day watching podcasts, I would probably say some days I probably easily do that with podcasts. Even if I'm not watching, I might be listening to them. So even just being careful, and I know it's bad sometimes when I'm like, I can't even tell you what I was watching. I'm like, well, what was I even doing online for that many hours? And because podcasts these days are so long, like sometimes you're just online for a really long time. But the accountability is the thing, like with phones and things, there's like so much privacy, which isn't bad, but it is like, you know, I feel like if you're looking at things that you wouldn't want to tell anybody, and I'm not saying you wouldn't want to tell everybody, but if you're looking at things that you wouldn't want to tell anybody, um, depending what it is, that might be a problem. Or if you wouldn't want to reveal like how much you're doing it. Maybe it's not necessarily that you are on a certain site, but how much you're doing it. Like even like I was looking at all the time I was online yesterday, because yesterday was way more than today. And if I'm looking at it, I'm like, I could be proud of today. Like I'm not trying to like pump myself up, but I'm just saying, like, for example, I could be proud of what I looked at today and go down pretty much the whole list and be like, oh, like I feel like I'm sharing like some point of progress. And I could look at yesterday and be like, there were definitely some things I was skipping, that I wasn't saying exactly what it was that I was doing. Like I vaguely mentioned on here what I was doing, but I did not fill in the details, and I wasn't giving like website names. I know what I was doing. Um, but to be doing it for the day, I'm like, okay, like, uh, it wasn't like a big deal, because it was one day. But if I spent every day of the week, or even every other day, or even 3 days a week, the way that I did yesterday, I would definitely be like, I've got a problem with this. Or even if it's more than even like once a week. Like if I was doing yesterday's schedule like every single Friday, I would definitely still be like, yeah, you probably got an issue with this. But because it was just like an occasional, it was like, okay, I'm doing this, and it's like an occasional thing. I don't really think of it as too problematic, but it's definitely something to look at, because I know the sites I was on, um, and if I know, like, I'm not gonna say I'm on here, but there are certain people I would tell, like, that I wouldn't have a problem like telling them specifically what I was doing. Um, that I'm like, it's kind of, some people, you share personal things with friends and stuff. Um, there are some friends I would probably tell, um, but I wouldn't tell like every single person that I know. Um, and then I also wouldn't. Mm, I mean, it just depends. There are friends though that I would like talk to, because we talk openly about stuff. Some of us do. So, there are some friends that I would tell, but I'm thinking about things where it's like, if there are people where you would like never tell anybody what you're doing online, if you have like a spouse or something, and you're like, I would never let them look at my phone, I would never let them see what I'm doing, it's like, that might be something to note for yourself, and put a little um review sticky note next to that topic in your brain, and be like, well, why don't I want to show them? Like maybe you don't have a good level of trust anymore, maybe there's something like that going on. But if that's not the case, if it's not like a trust issue, it might be something else. That you're like, deep down you're not supposed to be doing that. Um, and I don't know, like, us as humans, I don't know if we really have the discipline all the time, it's like it is like playing with fire. It's like you're given something with too much power that you constantly have to like fight, you know, to kind of avoid. Like if you know old psychological studies, they have the ones where they have the rats or the mice or whatever rodent that was like, they found a button that could give them like dopamine. They kind of like connected something in the brain where it's like, well, every time they hit this little button for dopamine, they'll just keep clicking that little button, and then their health gets worse and worse because there's a food button and there's a button that produces dopamine releases, and because of that pleasure feeling, they would rather have the dopamine than the food, and they don't ever get to a point a lot of times where they're like, where their brain tells them, hey, maybe this isn't good for you, stop pressing the button and go eat your food. Or the ones that there's the study where the rats just like, or the rodents get like an orgasm every time they press the button, and then of course they end up starving to death because they can't stop pressing the button because they'd rather get just like all the pleasure, and they're just like, food, I don't need food, I just need all this pleasure all the time. And I mean, that's just a small example, and the lives of those rodents do matter, but um you know I'm not saying like that I fully agree do these kind of studies and like mess with animals' lives and stuff, but um things that we do on our smartphones, or when we're online, or whatever device we're using, they do create a lot of dopamine, and we basically have instant access to dopamine in our pockets at any time of night or day, and we're supposed to figure out how to take this little device, how to um um look at it, take it, um uh and avoid a bunch of stuff that we're told is going to be dangerous for us. If we don't avoid it, um we're told to avoid it, and then we want to dabble. I can remember the first time I had a smartphone, and that this will be like the last thing I say on here for right now, for this episode. But I can remember, and I'm gonna finish watching the Internet Asifa videos. But this is all I have to say about it for now, since I'm almost like halfway done. Um. But yeah. Um. I forgot what I was gonna say. uh. But yeah, we're basically supposed to be, regulating everything, and it's not that easy to do. You have to have the self discipline already, to not get yourself addicted to stuff, um, and to not just say, okay, one more video, it's bedtime, it's lights out time, I need to turn my phone off, I need to shut this or that off, and to follow through with it and have the discipline to do it, because these devices are so like on us all the time that we just, we don't turn them off. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how many days I've gone without turning off my phone, unless it's like to restart it or something, but that's even rare. Um, and yeah, it's like I was even thinking the other day, because a friend wants to move in together, and I was considering it, even though let me not get into all that topic, but basically, I was thinking about it for July. I was just thinking about it. I was like, let me not just say no, let me think about it, because I could get some of what I want, or some of reach some of my goals if it was possible to do this. So I thought about it and I was like, you know what? This person likes television. They like to have a television in the house. And for me, I kind of think having a TV in my house is a deal breaker. I don't want to live somewhere with a television, and especially if it's not something I have control over. I don't want to live with that background noise of a television in the living room with people who can watch it at any time of day or night. They can listen to anything they want at any time of day or night. I can overhear anything that they're listening to at any time of day or night. Uh, and if we're just sitting in the living room, someone's going to be likely to turn the television on. I don't really like television. I I do have friends that when I go over to their houses, they don't have television, and it's pretty great. And we just sit and we talk, and it's great. It's perfect. I like it a lot. I don't get bored at all. It's very pleasant. We kind of have snacks and chill and like talk and catch up, and we don't watch TV, and it's perfectly fine. Like we have plenty to say to each other. We don't need a television, and I kind of like that. I don't know if I could live in a house with a TV. I really don't, and it's kind of weird to say, but um, you can't just tell people that though. You can't just be like, "Sorry, I can't move in with you because you watch television." But I was thinking about it, and I was like, that is kind of a deal breaker to me. Um, Depending on the person, but for me, it's kind of a deal breaker. Um, but okay. Well, I lost the last thing I was gonna say, and this is almost an hour and a half long. But I hope you guys like this. I hope if you're doing all these holidays and things, I hope you're having a good one. I hope you enjoy yourselves, and thanks for listening.